All right. Well, welcome. Thank you, Kevin and Ron, and welcome everybody to the webinar today. We're going to talk about how your hiring process may be impacting your diversity recruiting. My name is Ian Alexander. I'm co-founder and CMO of Surveil, and I'm joined by my colleague, Jason Moreau, who's co-founder and CEO of Surveil. Hi, Jason. How are you?
Great. How's it going, you guys? Excited to be here, and what a great topic.
Yes, and so just a little bit about Surveil. Surveil is a candidate experience feedback platform, and what Surveil does is allows hiring organizations to gather feedback at each stage of the recruiting process, and then serve that feedback up as analytics to really understand what's happening at every level within your hiring process. And diversity is one of those levels. So when we get into it today, we're going to talk a little about why diversity. And I can't imagine that I have to make this case to anybody who is joining us today. But as a foundation, we're just going to touch base on that. We're going to talk about why diversity and inclusion is an important topic right now. We're going to talk about how diversity in hiring plays through the hiring process and understanding that better. And ways to operationalize diversity into your week in, week out recruitment operations so that it doesn't become sort of an afterthought or a project, that it's really baked into everything you do. And Jason is going to go in and show us that towards the end here. And at the end, we're going to do some questions, a little bit of housekeeping. Just go ahead and throw your questions into the chat box as we're giving the presentation, and we'll answer them either as we go or at the end, depending on how everything plays out. So with that, everybody ready? Let's get started. So why diversity? Okay, I'm going to make the case for diversity, even though I can't imagine I have to. But so just to review here, diverse organizations are more innovative. There have been countless studies about how diversity plays into business benefit over the years. And so I'm just cherry picking some of these to just kind of set the stage here. So more innovation. BCG has reported that companies with diverse leadership achieved 73% more revenue from innovation. There's a case for better decision making. Diverse teams make better business decisions 87% of the time. Your employees want it. 67, according to Glassdoor, 67% of active and passive job seekers say diversity is an important factor when they're evaluating companies they want to work for. And then across the board, as we all know, bad candidate experiences can tend to show up in social media and on review sites like Glassdoor. And if these bad experiences include protected classes, that's not a good thing, right? So now we know why. Why now, right? So according to a study Deloitte did recently, 96% of CEOs say DEI is a strategic goal for them in the next 12 months. 96%, that's a big number, right? So at the same time, the focus is really on talent acquisition because 90% are prioritizing talent recruitment for DEI in the next 12 months. So there's a lot of interest in this area and with good reason. The same time, 72% of CEOs are agreeing that investing in the kind of data and analytics required to really understand and manage diversity within the organization is a huge priority. And that's a big part of what we're going to talk about. Okay? So, diversity hiring. The question is, are you listening or are you guessing, right? We're in a time when we should all be listening, right? And understanding the experiences of different diverse classes as they navigate the world. But from my experience and our experience, I'm sure Jason would agree with me, we're seeing a lot of guessing out there, right? So if you break down your recruiting process into its various stages and processes, career site, application, phone screen, are you just putting out a one-size-fits-all process and all the attendant technologies and people and programs within that process and saying, hey, we're guessing that this fits everybody? Or are you understanding the experience of diverse candidates as they go through each one of these processes. So, is your career site, is it navigatable? Is it or navigable? Is it getting people where they want to go? How are the job descriptions on the career site? Is it useful? How is the employer brand? Are people relating to the employer brand by diverse candidates? So you understand how different categories of candidates experience the same thing. Same with the application. Is it an easy process? Is it working for everybody? The human interactions, phone screens, and interviews are different genders and ethnic groups experiencing it in the same way. Good to know. Offers, onboarding, quality of hire, all the way through. You need to have an understanding of how these things are affecting different segments of your candidates, and diverse segments are the topic today. Because with everything I told you about the urgency around this right now, just imagine for a moment, your CEO comes into your office and says, hey, just curious, do you think our hiring process is encouraging more diversity or is it suppressing diversity? What would your answer be? Would it be, I don't think so? Is it suppressing diversity or is it, I know? So to get there, it seems to me we need to stop approaching DNI like it's a project, right? And we need to operationalize DNI, just like we operationalize, or many organizations operationalize candidate experience into their process. You need to bake it into your everyday operations. And we're going to talk about how to do that a little bit more, because the problem is, at the end of the day, your ATS can tell you how diverse your talent pool is, or how homogenous it might be, right? But it can't tell you why your talent pool is either diverse or homogenous. And it can't tell you where there might be bias in your hiring process. And again, it seems to me that gathering feedback data from candidates and even recruiters and hiring managers is the only way to do this, or the best, most practical way to do that. It gives you the ability to understand every step of your process and diagnose potential issues with things like job descriptions, your employer brand, interview performance issues, what's going on in those interviews, and how is that affecting different kinds of candidates differently. Career side issues, as I mentioned before. And then the big one, which we all struggle with, is that communication, is striking that balance of communication and how that communication is arriving and how it's being consumed by different segments of your candidate pools. So if you're coming in here thinking your process is one size fits all, I'm here to tell you, and we're here to tell you, it's not one size fits all. I'm going to show you data to kind of illustrate that. But just to kick it off, here's a quick report here. If you look at March, if you think all candidates experience processes the same, you can see here you've got certain groups that are experiencing an 88% net promoter score satisfaction, and you've got certain groups that are less than half of that, right? Or 3/4 of that. So if this is your organization, which I would wager that many of you have no idea how your organization plays out in this, those are some big areas that you should understand. So when your CEO walks into your office, you've got some real answers and some real data as to how your hiring process is affecting your diversity. So with that, I'm going to let Jason grab the screen, and Jason's going to kind of show you some kinds of DNI dashboards that are available to organizations as they analyze their hiring process using this sort of feedback-based process. So Jason, I'm still seeing my screen. There we go.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. All right, thanks, Ian. That was a great overview. Love it. What we're seeing here on my screen right now is a DNI dashboard that our clients have access to. And I just want to kind of step back and what we're also seeing from candidates that we do a lot of research as well with our clients. And one of the ways we do research is through our always on situation, where we kind of reach out and engage anonymous job seekers on our clients' career sites. Well, some of our clients are asking questions, hey, candidate, before applying, how important is it for you to understand our workforce demographics before applying? And I can tell you that overwhelming candidates are saying it's extremely important. And to that matter as well, that these candidates also want to see testimonials from diverse employees. So putting up some videos and some good content on your career site is kind of like that first step to engaging candidates and showing like how diverse you are and how strong our organization is. So with that, I'm going to move into here, and what we're looking at here is a DNI dashboard. And I just want to back it up a step and show you how we kind of collect all this data, because this is kind of like our final end, presentation to maybe our CEO or whoever we want to see this kind of data. So as Ian mentioned, Surveil is a stage-based feedback platform where we're reaching out, at various talent acquisition stages, like phone screens with our talent acquisition team recruiters, in on-site interviews and Zoom videos with our managers and so forth, and declined offers and all that. And the way we do that is through either SMS, text messaging, or an email. So in this case here, our candidate Mike was sent an email asking him, can you give us some feedback about the interview? So when Mike goes ahead and clicks on the link to take the survey, Mike would go through, whether it's on his desktop, mobile, iPad. He's going to walk through a quick survey. So how prepared was our interviewer? Did you have a copy of your CV, or yes or no? How was our interviewer manners? Was the interviewer knowledgeable about the role? Did they make good use of your time? With the talent board research, this is the number one complaint that the candidates are telling us that they have, is their time is being disrespected. Whether it's through talent acquisition recruiters or managers, one way or another is being disrespected. Any additional information, our candidate wants to provide some open-ended text qualitative feedback. And then based on your experience so far, how likely to refer someone to work here is a classic NPS question. It's a 0 to 10 point scale. People that answer 9 and 10s affect our scores positively. Everybody else considered a detractor, and they kind of work against us, and they had a 9 here. And then you go ahead and hit submit, and system now recognize that our candidate had a great experience, and will also leave us a Glassdoor score. So that's how we're gathering the feedback, through the email and text messaging. So now when we log into the Surveil platform, we can go to our DNI dashboard here and start analyzing and looking at our analytics and seeing, do we have any issues? So the first area I'm going to take us into is, let's take a look at our talent acquisition team, our recruiters, and look at the satisfaction feedback about our phone screens with our recruiters. And we want to break it down by gender. So what we're looking at here are our candidate net promoter scores, broken down by gender. And this is month over month. So this is like the last 6 months. And what we're looking at here in the month of November, males and females, fairly equally balanced. And then we move into December, the males take a dip. Not much, not too bad. And then again, bounce back in January, fairly even. And then we start to see this trend of males giving feedback where they're not satisfied with the phone screens. So February, March, April, the trend moves downwards. Well, wouldn't it be nice to understand, let's add another layer of filtering on this data? Let's take a look now. Let's look at the same data by race. So now we're again, so what we're doing here is this is a phone screen with a recruiter. The candidate is providing feedback about that experience. We're breaking it down by gender and by race now. So if I come and take a look at this, I'm going to just remove, I do not wish to provide the information. So now we're purely looking at males and females. And the first widget here that we're looking at is candidates, our white Caucasian feedback from our candidates after their phone screen. And you can see now we're looking at the same kind of data set. November, fairly balanced. December takes a dip. January, like a spike. And then we have, again, these 3 months where there's this negative downtrend of the white male population saying, I didn't have a good experience with the recruiter. So what does that mean? Well, it probably means, you can go into Surveil and diagnose. And I'm going to go into that a little bit further and show you exactly how to pinpoint, the situation with that human interaction, and then take a look at the comments. For the same 10 o'clock. For the same, looking at our Black African American, broken down by gender and their satisfaction rates over the same time period, we're able to look at this and say, okay, well, this actually looks pretty balanced. And, I don't have that negative trend in the months February, March, and April here. You can actually see in these 3 months, this looks like a very, very balanced situation. So really what it's telling us is, our Black African male and female population with our phone screens with recruiters is very positive. Maybe not so much with our white Caucasian. I'm going to move into the next stage now, and the interview process. So this is feedback now after a manager has interviewed our candidates. So again, this first chart here is just broken down high level of male and female population for the last 6 months. And so our females are here in gray, and you can see that they're having very positive experiences. They definitely, the trend here is our female population is having positive experiences versus our male population. So again, maybe I want to go and apply a race filter on top of this to see if if there's something adverse impact happening here now. So if I can look and see, I'm going to remove the I do not wish to supply the information. And we get a nice clean look at our male-female population. And the first one we're looking at here is our Black African Americans and their satisfaction rates. And then the next widget over here we're looking at is our white Caucasian and their satisfaction rates. And in this case here, the females are in gray, and then our males are in the light blue. And again, it tends to be that trend where our Black African female population are definitely having some positive experiences with our managers. Maybe not so much with our males. I'm going to move along into the next stage of the hiring process, is where we actually now have new hires and they've been onboarded for the first 30 days. And I just want to understand, what is our satisfaction rates with our new hire look like in an MPS world. So we're looking at here females and males, and I'm going to remove I do not wish to supply the information. And again, the overall trend here is our females are definitely more satisfied than our male population. I wouldn't say that this raises any kind of alarms at this point. This is actually fairly equal. I would probably say, hey, this is actually a good situation that our onboarding for all gender and all races are positive. So even when I come down here and look at this, our new hire satisfaction rate by our race, you can see that there's a spike here in November with our Asian population. But for the most part, when you visually look at this data, things seem to be pretty well in check with our new hires. So what I would probably be doing if I were looking at this, like, what are my actions? Well, I probably want to focus on, maybe some of my interview experiences and dive into the data within Surveil and take a look at some of the interview experiences happening there, and maybe even apply recruiters. So how do I do that? I'm going to take you into inside Surveil and take you into how you would go and diagnose this information. So we're inside Surveil. We're inside an interview follow-up survey. So this is the example here is, again, candidates have gone out. They've interviewed with managers, multiple managers. These candidates are being surveyed automatically, typically 48 hours after that interview. Candidates are providing the feedback, and here's what we're seeing. So visually representing the data of how prepared was your interviewer, did they have a copy of your resume and CV? These are the questions that we just went through as our example candidate. And if I continue to scroll down, you can see some red on the screen, and everything's filterable here. But if I said, well, based on, here's our net promoter question, again, that 0 through 6 would be considered detractors. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on one of these detractor moments here, and I'm going to go back up to my filters, and I want to see all my detractors. So I'm going to hit this little drop down here, and I'm going to apply my 0, 1, 2, 3s, 4, 5, and 6. These are considered our detractors. I'm going to apply that filter. So now the data is going to refresh on my screen, and I'm really only looking at people that said they were not satisfied with this interview. Well, wouldn't it be nice to know who was the manager behind these interviews? Well, as we continue to scroll down here, what we'll see is because we integrate into your back-end systems, all your applicant tracking systems and HRMS platforms, Surveil brings in operational data as well as experience data, marries it together, and based on what we're seeing here, we've got a few managers that are providing these negative experiences with candidates. So you can see how quickly it is to filter. Well, if I want to go and pick on one particular person, I could just go ahead and click on our manager's name here. Again, everything filters down. Now we're just looking at negative feedback about these interviews for one particular manager. So if I want to go jump in, maybe I'm sitting down with that manager now and saying, let's take a look at some of the raw data that's coming back. I could do so. I could just jump in and, quickly jump in and see, oh, here we go. She was 45 minutes late. That's how easy it is to understand some of these poor experiences. And then, it's easy to retrain your managers, saying, here's where we're having problems. It's not me. It's not my gut telling me this. It's 40 candidates have now told me that you're continuously late to these interviews and providing these negative experiences. So with that, I hope I've given you a glimpse into how fun and easy it is to go and analyze DNI information and bring you some of these powerful analytics, and how easy it is that when you see these analytics to translate that into, let me go and figure out where this is happening and who it's happening with. So Ian, with that, I'm going to turn it back to you and for our little wrap.
Thanks, Jason. So yeah, just to recap, the ability to understand what's happening with your diverse candidates and just all candidates in general, just really make this concept of feedback-based recruiting more important today than it ever has been before, and you can get this kind of data out there. So if you have any further questions that we can't get to today, feel free to reach out to us at info@surveil.com or check us out at surveil.com. We thank you for your time today. Enjoy the rest of the sessions and have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Bye now.